Hey there, how's it going? It's Matt, and tonight I'm going to make some dinner. And what we got here is we got some pork loin from the store, and we have some fresh asparagus. And I'm going to show you how to prepare these folks. We're going to saute the pork, and we're going to boil, then saute the asparagus with some butter and some lemon. So let's get started. First off, a little safety tip. We're going to do the veggies first, and then we're going to do the meat last, so we don't have to worry about cross-contamination on the little board thing going on here. Second off, we're going to make sure our board is secured. We're going to use some shelf liner, which I got from the store, and this is just a piece I had left over laying around. And you take your cutting board, and you set it on top of the shelf liner, and now you have a stable base that will not move back and forth. This is important because without the shelf liner, what you have is a Ouija board. Now, you really don't want a Ouija board when you cut on it, because this, well, I'm not even going to demonstrate that. So anyways, so put down your shelf liner. It's really cheap. Get it. It's cheaper than a trip to the emergency room. And there you go. Now you have a very stable work surface. So let's talk asparagus. The way you decide where to cut your asparagus, because you don't want to eat the root end, is you take one spear of asparagus, and everyone may or may not have seen this, and you break it. Wherever it breaks is where you cut. So you line up your little puppies like this, and it's about halfway. So we're going to cut off the bottom half of our asparagus. There we go. Take these guys and put them in the compost or the garbage. And if you want to save the rubber bands, you can save the rubber bands. They're really good. So what you have left are just the spears. Now you can leave the rubber band on when you boil the spears, or you can take them off. If you leave the rubber bands on, it's easier to fish it out. Well, for our purposes, we're just going to take the rubber band off. And then once again, you can save these because they're rubber bands. All right, there we go. We're going to set those aside. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to prepare our pork loin. Now the pork loin, this is boneless, and it comes from the pork chop, where one side of the chop is the pork tenderloin and the other side is the pork loin, just like in a beef type animal, where the top part is the strip, the bottom part is the tenderloin or filet mignon. Alright, so these came from my local Whole Foods, and they're looking pretty good. You don't want anything, ooh, these are thick. And there you go. So here's the fat side, and here's the side that was attached to the bone. So there you go. You get the idea. We're going to go ahead and put these in a aluminum tray. And there we go. And first off, what we're going to do is season it up with some pepper. There we go. And some salt. There we go. And finally some oil. There we go. Alright. So once you've made this mess, go ahead and you rub it around, coating them as evenly as possible. It's no big deal. I mean, they're all going to go into a fry, and they'll be fine. Just go ahead and rub your seasoning around both sides, turn them over, and so forth like that. Meanwhile, I got some water over here on the stove, and I've heated up my saute pan. No oil in the saute pan because we have oil right here. So we won't need any more oil in the saute pan for the meat part. For the asparagus part, we'll add some butter, and that will be enough lubricant. All right? Well, as you heard, that's my little alarm going off. That means my clothes are done down in the dryer. So as you can see, you can prepare dinner and also do laundry at the same time. It's just that easy. So let's go ahead and move on over to the stove, and we'll fry up our pork and boil our asparagus. All right. So here we are. We got our pan warmed up, we got our water boiling, and we are ready to start to make some din din. So first thing off I'm going to do is I'm going to put a nice good old crust on these pork loins, and then we're going to do each side equally, and then we're going to put the lid on top and use convection to heat the remainder of the pork at a lower temperature, because we don't want to cook the entire thing at a high temperature, because then the outside will be crusty brown and the inside will still be raw. So that's why we're going to use the lid and turn the heat down and turn our little pan into an oven of sorts. So we're going to go ahead and add these to the pan. Once again, there's no oil in the pan because we've already oiled and seasoned our pork right here. There you go. And just put them in there evenly, and there you go. Now, wash your hands. I'll be right back. Alrighty, I washed my hands. So, like I said, we're not going to touch this. We're not going to move this. We're going to let our meat sit here and develop a lovely little crust, and then we'll consider turning it after 2 or 3 minutes. But there we go. A few notes of interest about pork. As you know, in the olden days, we used to cook pork to pretty much dead, 165, 170, or gray, because of our concerns of trichinosis. Well, these days, pork is raised in a much different manner than it was in the past, where in the past, the the piggies were typically fed slop, which may or may not have contained rats, which the rats may or may not have contained trichinosis. So the pigs would eat the slop, which would contain the rats, and the pigs would get trichinosis, and then the people would eat the pork, which was undercooked, and they would get it. But in this day and time, you can now cook pork to a fairly palatable temperature of 138. So you can now eat pink pork, well, fairly pink pork. Don't go for medium rare or rare. 138 is a good temperature, so it's sort of pink, and not be in danger of some horrible foodborne illness. All right. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and take a peek. There we go. All right. Yeah, there we go. They came right on off. If they don't come right on off, don't lift it. Just leave it be. So, as you can see, this is what the backside looks like. So we'll go ahead and put that over. And there we go. And we're going to finish it on this side. Alrighty, so we've got both sides done. Here's one side. Here's the other side. And it's still pink. So what you're going to do is we're going to turn our heat down to, say, medium-low, or a little bit, 5/8, between low and medium. And we're going to put our lid on. And that's it. Now, we know our pork is done when the following happens. When we go ahead and push on the pork, and 1, it's not a rock. 2, it's not a squishy thing, but it's somewhere in the middle where you push down, it gives a little bit, and it pops back up. That's what you're looking for. Anything different than that, and you either gone too far or you're not there yet. And you're more than welcome to use the thermometer. So and just take that thermometer and stick it right in the middle of the pork, and you're going for 138. All right. So we'll be back. Alrighty, so I think we're about done. We'll go ahead and take their temperature. Yeah, they're done. Now, as you can see, we have 3 different sizes. We have a small one, we have a medium one, and we have a fairly large one. Now, I think the large one, we'll have to cook a little bit more, but I think we're done pretty much for this one. So we're going to take them out. We won't use them tonight. We'll use them for another event, because the medium one is done. Yep, definitely. And the small one is overdone. In fact, let me show you by taking their temperature. Now, I don't recommend doing this because when you poke a hole in your meat, the juice comes out. But for our purposes, I'm just going to show you what happens here. So we're going to go ahead and stick our thermometer in this one. And we are at 152. So yes, we are done. This is safe to eat. And this one right here is at 170. Yes, this one is overdone. So this one is definitely ready to eat. All right. And this one I can guarantee you is probably a little bit under, so it'll be fine to finish it off tomorrow in a little more cooking process. So there we go. We're done with that. Make sure you wash your thermometer after you're done using it. So what we got back here is some salted water, which has come to a boil. And we got our asparagus spears, and I'm going to throw in about, you don't want to overcrowd it, so we're going to go for about 1.5 handfuls, all right? So that'll be enough. And do not cover your asparagus spears when you boil them. Just leave them uncovered, because if you cover them up, there's an enzyme that takes place which is released during boiling. When you cover it up, that enzyme is concentrated, and it's what causes your green things to turn gray. So you want to leave the lid off so the enzyme goes up in the air and so forth, and is not exposed to your lovely little asparagus. All right, so we're going to go ahead and poke our asparagus until they're about 80% done. You know, 80% done to you and 80% done to me. Maybe a little bit different, but I like it when you bite down on your asparagus. Well, and it has a nice little snap to it. All right. But as far as 80% done goes, it turns bright green like this. All right. So we're done. We're going to take that and just toss them right in here. Now, if you weren't going to use these right away, you could take these and put them into what's called a water bath full of water and ice water and cool them down to stop the cooking process and save them for later use. We, however, are using them right away. And we didn't want to saute our asparagus because you just burn them and you wouldn't cook them all the way through. So that's why we boiled them, and now we're going to finish them in the saute pan. All right? So here we go. We're going to push them around. We're going to add our butter. Go ahead and salt these. There we go. And then you can push it around however you want. And notice how it sucks off the wonderful pork yumminess on the bottom. This is definitely not a vegetarian dish by any means, because you've made pork and then you've thrown vegetables on top of cooked pork. So, you know. Now, you go ahead and taste it. As far as I'm concerned, that's done. So out they come. And they'll look like this. Alright? Nice and bright and green and not limp. See? Not limp. There you go. You want that to happen. You don't want... Okay? It's bad. Go ahead and take these out. And these are good cold. These are good warm. These are good pretty much however except for soggy. So if you don't eat them all tonight, you can put them in the fridge and you can snack on them later because asparagus is good. Alrighty. I got my pork done. It's all rested. I got my asparagus. It's still green. Yum, yum. And now we're ready to carve our pork. Now, we don't have to carve the pork. We just take the thing and throw it on the plate and go, here you go, honey. Dinner. But, you know, when you carve something, it looks nice. It really does. It say, hey, look, I'm taking time to actually present this thing. So it looks fairly pretty. Rather than just, meat, yum. Okay? So when you grab a hold of your loin and you want to cut it against the grain. So turn it so the little lines go up and down and you're going to go that way across it. So it's not stringy and easier to chew. Alright? So go ahead and put it on your cutting board like that. Now, I could use an expensive slicer like this one, which you can go make one nice movement and you get one slice per movement and there's no jaggies and there's no stuttering and there's no mangling of the meat. But not everyone owns one of these things. And I don't expect everyone to own one of these things. But I do know most of you folks own one of these things. Yes, this is the Jeff Smith Frugal Gourmet Plastic Handle Serrated Edge. I can cut through just about anything knife. And tonight, it's going to cut through pork. Alright, so hold it against the grain like that. And just go ahead and start making slices. There you go. Ooh, that's nice. Now that's mostly fat, so you don't have to eat that if you don't want to. And there you go. Notice my technique. I am curling my fingers back underneath my knuckles, so I do not cut off my fingers. I rub against my knuckles if I would cut myself. So once you have a fair amount of pork, that's enough. There you go. You're going to arrange it on your plate however you desire. You want to fan it out. You can. Ooh, there you go. Alright. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then take some of your asparagus and just plop it down there and you are good to go. If you were doing this for school, you probably want to make sure your points all point in the same direction. And you'll want to use a sauce and you'll want to do this correctly and you'll want to wipe your plate and blah, blah, blah. But this is dinner, okay? So, as far as I'm concerned, this is perfect. This is good. Yum, yum, yum. Enjoy yourselves. Be proud of what you made. So, anyways. Hope you all have enjoyed watching me make a very, very simple dish, sauteed pork and asparagus, but it's very crucial. It's important because you now know how to saute meat and cook vegetables. And with those two skills, you can do all kinds of things. So get out there and experiment, and please, please don't set your kitchen on fire. All right? So until next time, see you later.